that kit you're wearing right now, those were on sale for like $15 at the mega store.
It's the Cunha, so I'll probably get it for like $8.50.
Yeah. Welcome to episode 37 of season 5 of Whole Lot of Wolves. I'm Joshua Buckley with my co-host Paul LePage.
Greetings.
Back from serving drinks to his co-workers, our producer Alex Patakis.
Hello.
We have Danny Paletti on
Good evening.
social.
Good
and
evening.
Coming back from Pittsburgh, it is Drew Bryer. How's it going, Drew?
I promise next time I'm here, it's going to be after a Wolves win. I promise.
Yeah.
Drew's
That's what Teddy always says too.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it had to end sometime, right? 6 in a row was not to be 7 in a row. But honestly, I think you could say there were still a lot of positives from this 1-0 loss against Manchester City, especially, Paul, since starting out, Wolves were without their second leading scorer in Strand Larsen.
Yeah, we were not only were Man City missing a tall goal scoring Norwegian, but so were the mighty Wolves as well. So those aspects, I'd guess, make an impact when you've got that set up over a number of weeks, and he's quite crucial to the way we play in many respects. So often I mention the spine of a team and how important that is, and when you miss a key figure like that, then it can have some knock-on effects, maybe that we saw a few times during that game. But I always like the opportunity that it presents. Bellegarde coming back in, he's showed some really good touches at times, some not so good touches that we'll come on to. And I am of the opinion that I quite like it when Cunha plays centrally as well. So I think that often gives him an option to shine too. So when the teams came out, I wasn't overly concerned that Strand Larsen would be a huge loss, but it was more probably disruption than anything else.
Well, and coming in for Strand Larsen was Jean-Victor Bellegarde. The Bellegardian of the Galaxy looked a little rusty, Drew.
What a game of inches. I mean, if he just either squares that ball a little bit better. First of all, if he squares that ball and Menetzi puts it in, then the Bellegarde to Menetzi combination would have as many goals and assists as the Cunha to Strand Larsen, which is, I don't know.
That is a great stat.
And then, even my goodness, even on like I'm sure we'll get to the De Bruyne, but Bellegarde was inches away from that as well. I was screaming for him to shoot it. My daughter had just come home from school, came running downstairs, wondering why I was yelling so much. But yeah, just take a shot, man. Take a shot there.
So what he's referring to, Danny, is when Bellegarde, I mean, it looked like a for sure goal-scoring opportunity. He's one-on-one with the keeper. Menetzi's just going down the left side of the box, wide open. Were you hoping Bellegarde shot it, or did he make the right decision to lay it up to Menetzi in just a bad pass?
I think, like Drew said, whatever decision, if it had come a second and a half earlier, probably would have been the better one. But yeah, it feels like, it immediately put me in mind of the goal he scored against Villa, which was really like at the beginning of, a sort of run under Vitor Pereira where things just were starting to click, even in games that we didn't necessarily feel like we ought to be winning. And it was just in that moment in the Villa game, he had the confidence to just go and take the shot. And whether it's rustiness or, being a little bit daunted by the occasion, we're on this run, and also at the Etihad, which was its own typical silent self, but still it's a very impressive stadium. And it just like all those things I think combined to make him just hesitate for just another second and a half or something. And if he just struck it like he did, against Villa, I feel like that's 80% at least going to go in the net. But also sliding it across earlier would have helped. I think like you have this scenario where both players are players who, if they're not in flow, are going to tend to think way too much about it. And giving Menetzi an extra second and a half also didn't help, because now he's, stutter stepping, trying to stay on side and whatever. Yeah, it was just a mess. But yeah, I mostly, I guess, chalk it up to him being out of the squad for a little bit.
I feel like Menetzi, Alex, is a very polarizing guy right now. I know I tweeted, really wasn't his best game. Another person, like right after me, had tweeted like, oh, I think I underrate him. He's so good. I agree, work rate, he busts his butt off. But it seems to me like whenever he's getting the ball in the final third, he's like a newborn giraffe where it's like, whoa.
Yeah, you called him Den Donker or whatever right off the gate.
I actually think more like Zardes 2.0 from for all you U.S. Finns nationally. I saw Danny laugh there. What do you think? You think you like that comparison?
Yeah, no, that's a great comparison. And much like Zardes, there's going to be like some game where he scores a brace and neither of them will come off of a natural part of his body or something. But yeah, spot on.
Alex, you remember that game where Zardes had it come off of his eye socket into the goal?
Yeah, Menetzi seems like that kind of hard luck player too, but they got to start to break your way at some point, right? The chances are there. Like, he does a lot of things right, but the finishing and the timing is just it's difficult not to get frustrated with him. And it seems like whether it's his work rate or everything else he does without the ball or defensively, every time you're frustrated with him and you see somebody warming up on the touchline, he's not the guy coming off. Yeah. Like, you're always like, all right, like I feel like the impulsive thing is like after he misses a chance like that, just be like, get him off, like put Sarabia on. Rather have Sarabia creating chances for us, but it's like it's never Menetzi who's coming off because the guy just runs for ages. So I trust he'll come good eventually, maybe next season.
Look, guy busts his butt running around. Vitor clearly likes him, but yeah, it's just I don't trust it anytime he's getting the ball in the final third. Paul, we should have been up 1-0 and really could have been up 2-0 if not for that pesky woodwork that got in the way of Aït-Nouri's shot, which was, kind of a mad scramble in the box for a little bit.
You're talking about the post or Guardiola's legs? Both were involved in that one. But just watching that back, if that had gone in on any point, ideally that first shot that Aït-Nouri had, it was such a great move. If Man City had done that, everyone would have been replaying it and be like, look at this wonderful team move crafted by this fantastic team. And there was the Wolves absolutely like putting it to him. You got Andre spreading it out from midfield. I think we look, I don't know, like over recent times and Aït-Nouri's impact offensively, certainly under the Vitor Pereira era. But when he's on his game, we look so much more of a threat, and he's got a good relationship with Cunha down the left, and maybe that was telling from Friday that came from Cunha being down that left-hand side at the same time as well, taking players out, setting up that opportunity. But if that had gone in, you'd have been talking about that for a long time. And sometimes it's a case that you've you've got to put them away. Either that one or the rebound. Sometimes when your look's not there, it's not there, and you have to have it in a game like that. Certainly away at Man City.
Andrew, you missed too many chances. It's going to come back to bite you, and that's what happened. And of course, it had to be Kevin De Bruyne, who that may have been his last, as the announcer said over and over, maybe have been his last goal at the Etihad. What do you think of his goal, Drew?
Well, I think you and I had a little bit back and forth on Twitter, and it's, it just is sort of, Wolves are still a mid-table team, and Man City is still fighting for Champions League. And when you are, when you've been there before, we're used to winning those games, you bury those chances. You get one and you bury it, and he did. I mean, it was sort of Doku, was able to beat Doc, and like Andre had a totally uncharacteristic turnover, and then he ended up slipping in the box. It was inches away again from Bellegarde getting a foot on it, but it just, it falls to him, and he made no mistake about it. And gave the announcers a chance to tell him again how great he is. So
Danny, it's I'm going to look at this glass half full. Andre having a human performance may help, since, only the top 6 teams only pay attention to like a few matches here and there. So look bad against Man City. Guaranteed to stay, right?
Yeah, probably not the worst thing to, especially Man City, to think that maybe he's more of an average footballer than we know that he is. Side point about that, I suppose. I understand that on the UK broadcast, Jamie Carragher was involved and could not stop singing Ryan Aït-Nouri's praises, doing the recruitment job for Liverpool currently at every chance that he can get. So watch out for that one, I suppose. It's one of those times where I'm really glad that we don't get the UK feed, because I understand it's pretty insufferable.
Speaking of Liverpool, Alex, did you see Trent Alexander-Arnold's Twitter post today?
I mean, I saw the news, but maybe I didn't see his own post.
I mean, it was just like, hey, I've been here for 20 years, really going to miss it, blah, blah, blah. Liverpool fans are just the worst. They're the absolute worst. They're sitting there like bashing this dude. I can't believe you left on a free. You screwed Liverpool up, blah, blah, blah. You could have had a statue. Number one, they ain't building a statue for Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? Good player, really good player. They're not building a statue for him. He'd be like the 4th guy on that team if they did it for. Number 2, like, come on, man. The dude he won you 2 league championships. He won you a Champions League. Like, if he wants to go off to Real Madrid, cool. How many times have we had that stuff, right? One of our players, especially with a goodbye video. That would have been us, like, telling Raul to go F himself or Neves. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, well, I don't know that we're the club to talk about send-offs, though. I mean, like, if João Moutinho plays his final game for Wolves and nobody's there to see it, did it ever really happen? There was just no ceremony for people who I would consider to be club legends. But your point about Liverpool fan stands, I mean, it's hard to judge because he is like a Liverpool kid, like through and through. He's like, but he also cost them nothing, so maybe they shouldn't be so bitter about it. And
what's he gained them other than 2 league trophies?
Yeah, and a few Champions Leagues as well to go along with it. So don't understand the vitriol for the guy. But if I'm him, the only thing I would, and I wouldn't say it because then he would just open himself to even more criticism, is a lot of these people are the same fans that were criticizing him while he was playing for Liverpool and saying that he doesn't have a real natural position. He's not a natural right back. He can't play as a midfielder. He can't do this. He can't do that. So he's just always going to be a target for criticism, and that's just how it is. And I have news for you, Trent. That's not going to stop when you go to a rebuilding Madrid next season, who has their rivals Barca looking like one of the best teams in the world right now, with a bunch of teenagers and young 20-year-olds doing it. So good luck to him. And we'll see. If they want Aït-Nouri, then they still got to solve right back. Maybe we'll reinvest. Who knows? Maybe the money will actually come, unlike the Diogo Jota money. Who knows, man?
Oh man, I can only imagine if it's like, oh yeah, Liverpool's going to start paying in 5 years on Aitnery, the vitriol coming out of Wolves fans. So back to our game, Paul. Second half, still some solid moments. Cunha had another moment of magic. Looked like it could have gone in. Overall, how would you feel like their performance was in that second half? It didn't seem like they really just rolled over for Man City.
Yeah, I think you went for a really good first half on the whole, apart from the goal, where you'd have probably given them a B plus. Yet the second half was a lot worse. And I think, again, like what Drew mentioned earlier, this is the tale of the two teams. We're that lower bottom half Premier League team up against that Champions League challenger or title challenger over recent years. And it shows. And I think it shows for where we are when you look at our bench, and certainly it's been better than a lot of the times last year in terms of depth, but still you're not rubbing your hands with glee thinking this player's coming on and he's going to make a difference and he's going to be a genuine attacking threat and really give the opposition something to worry about. We've not got that player or two on the bench anymore, and it's one of those games where it showed on Friday. We needed something a little different, another way to maybe attack them, exploit them in a way that we hadn't up to that point, and it just wasn't there. Now, like, is it a disaster? No, just because the balance of play, balance of the game, it was pretty decent. There's no shame in losing 1-0 away to City, but they were too clever in really forcing that shutout, and we didn't have anything over and above what was really that starting 11 to really trouble them anymore.
Drew, Aitnery could have gotten a red card for his high challenge. Kind of seemed to me like, maybe slipped a little bit off the ball. Although, again, the U.S. broadcast was ready to put him in handcuffs, it seemed like. What do you think? Fair or foul?
So I have a video of my son when he's 2 years old that we covered a soccer ball in snow, and he runs up and kicks it into a goal, and it's in super slow motion, and it looks like the ball absolutely explodes. You slow anything down to like that minute of a second, and you can find something that you may think to be egregious. It was just a regular play. I mean, he was literally trying to drag the ball with him. Bernardo Silva steps in and, challenges him and gets stepped on. But there was no malicious intent. It was just, it was Aitnery being Aitnery and trying to maneuver around him. I think it was absolutely blown out of proportion. And again, that's what you're getting when, it's Wolves playing at the Etihad, and they want to, and there wasn't a whole lot going on in the game at that point. I think they're looking for some excitement. Seemed to be a lot of neutrals that were not very interested in this game. So I think they were trying to look for something to kind of spice it up a little.
I don't know. It sounded. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
There was nowhere for him to plant that foot when it was part of the move. That the only place it was going was down, and that was where Bernardo Silva was. And I think I texted, I tweeted it. I think we not had the benefit of the doubt on that one, but I think the precedent was set by Lewis Skelly's card getting overturned against us for the foul on Doc that was high, probably not the intention that it was first thought of in that situation. And I think VR are probably under the instructions now that in those types of situations, it's probably not a sending off offence. And I think rightly, again, not having any real bias in this one, I think I'd been really disappointed if he got sent off for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, Wolves still had one last chance, Danny. Corner kick. Here comes Sa up from goal for it. He didn't score. Wolves didn't score. They lost 1-0. But you brought up a great question in our group chat.
That's right. So this came to me because the situation is just so unusual. I mean, I guess we're just not usually in games like that right at the end. But even so, we just I don't remember the last time we had a goalkeeper come up for a corner in the dying seconds. So I was wondering, if Sa does bury that and gives us a draw, or maybe in another match, wins us the game, what manner of celebration does he get in that? And I think Alex had the right response. What class of felony is it?
I was trying to think about it. I think he would be one of those where he does like 5 celebrations as once because he doesn't know what to do. It'd be like Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands. What do you think, Drew?
Oh, so, well, I guess for Sa's celebration, I think he probably would have yelled at Jamie Vardy again, and we all would have gone nuts for it. But what I was really thinking was, it gets punched out and directly to a Wolves player, and they blow the game dead immediately. I can't think of another team other than Wolves playing against Man City that would definitely happen to.
Paul?
I think Sa's definitely the shirt's coming off and would just reveal some concoction of tattoo that I think we'd find unimaginable, just like a whole body covering or something. I got that feeling, but it would be like full top off, and he would have scored right where the away fans were. So it'd be full top off, like swinging it around his head all the way across to the away fans and a knee slide, and he'd get booked for his top being off, and he might get booked for time wasting and sent off, all in the same thing. So,
yeah, but I mean, a little bit seriously, it was kind of a fun match in a way. It wasn't like the most riveting for most of it, but I thought that we gave as well as we got for large portions of the game, and then even just Sa coming up at the end just had a bit of energy to it. It was fun. Like, I don't know, it's very emblematic of like this run that we've been on, where we feel like hard to beat and kind of back to the good old days, of like Nuno, and like we can win any game that we're put into if the cards fall right. And there was like a little cheer that went up when it was clear Sa was coming up, and it's just like no one necessarily expects him to actually put it in, but it's just, I don't know. Again, I think it just like it reflects in those fans who are there, like that hope that like, yeah, we could actually do this, and we could have done it earlier too. And that was a thrilling feeling, even in a 1-0 defeat that breaks the streak.
Paul, how good was Agbadou in this game, though?
I think that was mentioned more from the fans watching in the UK and their broadcaster giving the man of the match, and in those situations, it's always given to the winning team. But I just thought, watching large parts of that game, I was kind of in disbelief that how's it gone this long without him being snapped up, and being snapped up from someone in a much better place than the Wolves have been this season as well. I'd be thinking, if he was a few years younger, certainly the likes of those European contenders going in for him, and Newcastle maybe, even based on squad depth and everything, maybe as high as an Arsenal and would be a player that could go into that team and fit in straight away. So I think they've uncovered an absolute gem. I'll still proudly say that he's kept us up more than what Cunha's done in the period since his arrival. Genuine contender for player of the season, even in that short amount of time that he's been here.
Well, guys, that was what was going on with the men's team. But on the women's team, there was some interesting developments. Danny, would you like to kind of explain for those that aren't keeping up in the news?
Yeah, and I'll try to be somewhat brief and just keep it top level because we still don't have all the answers that we're looking for, and so I don't want to do it any disjustice. But essentially, a week ago on Sunday, they had their final game. Wolves women were equal on points with a win in that game, but also needed to overturn a fairly large goal difference. And Wolves women did their part. They won that final game 6-0. But unfortunately, our not so beloved neighbors, the Baggies, could not pull off an upset win over Forest and also shrink the goal difference. So Forest ended up champions of the league and will be promoted to the championship. The end of a really good season, all things considered, especially given the level of investment, which there's 2 or 3 other teams in the league that have gone part or full time and are getting a lot more investment than Wolves women are. Wolves women have only lost once all season. So amazing season that was instantly overshadowed by the news that we got on Sunday when midfielder Beth Merrick put out a statement on Twitter that I will not read in its entirety, but essentially makes it clear that the club chose not to apply for promotion back in January, February when that needed to happen. So even if things had fallen right on that last game, they would not have been able to be promoted. There have since been some very, very scant details reported through the Express and Star, essentially that Wolves had some private misgivings about the conditions for being promoted, and a number of administrative things, as well as the position of the men's team at the time, should the men's team get relegated and what that would mean for them spending this money. But obviously the sort of top line that a lot of people have been talking about is just the kind of shadiness and betrayal of it all, that you would not tell the team that is chasing promotion all season that even if they were to win, that they wouldn't be able to go up. Now, in a later comment from Liam Keane, I assume that this is information that comes from the club, they maintained that if they had won the league, that they would have protested to go up anyway, because I guess they have these administrative disagreements with the process. They're not being very long on details, so I can't really comment on that. It doesn't, to me, really mitigate what they did. And just to, give some context about the amounts of money that we're talking about, Wolves were promoted from Tier 4 a few years ago around the COVID time. Basically, they achieved promotion a couple of times, but COVID curtailed those seasons. They eventually got promoted to Tier 3. And then in their first season, they ended up in what the old system was a playoff final to get promoted with the Southern Division that they lost. But the year that happened, the club did put in this application. Now, the application is, a bit unusual to some people, but it is not entirely uncommon at lower leagues. And in fact, even here in the U.S., the USL does similar things where teams get promoted, but you have to first show that you have the funding and the facilities and whatever to compete at that higher level. The example I've given to people is like, you remember last year when Luton came up, they had to do some work on their stadium to bring it up to Premier League standard. It's the same thing. So it's just an administrative application that says, yes, we understand it costs this much and we will put in place these things. It's mostly staff members. It is that Wolves women already have. It is making sure that you have the right kind of stadium, which Wolves women already have. It's a lot of stuff we already have. because they've been doing work these last few years. So extremely disappointing. And to sort of wrap this up, I'll just say that we don't really have news other than to say that the club did meet with the women's team on last Thursday. I assume that there was an apology somewhere in there. We also assume that because we haven't heard anything from either the players or the club since then, that there is something for one or both of the sides to think about. So I'm going to leave it there in terms of like going into a deep dive, just because, we're going to find out hopefully this week what may have come out from that. And I certainly encourage everyone who's interested to check out the Wolves Women Pod. I've been in touch with them a lot during this. And of course, they will, they'll be putting out their own podcast once we get that news, which again should be sometime this week. And so, I just was kind of curious to bring it up to you guys, seeing this all. I know that some of you saw me posting a lot online about it. And just from what I'm just kind of curious, what do you think this says about the club's ambition for its women's team, that it's put, a decent amount of investment in over the last 5 years?
Ambition. That's funny. There's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm being kind of like disingenuous, I suppose, but it's just kind of like, what is the point of competing if you're not going to actually try to compete? The money that they put in, even if I personally think it's not enough, presumably it's with the aim of getting promoted.
I think what gets me, like, on the whole with all of this, is that it's, and I don't mean it to come across as a cliche, but it's Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club, WWFC. It's not Wolverhampton Wanderers Esports Club. It's not Wolverhampton Wanderers Chess Club. And this stuff just leaves a nasty taste, because you don't know if any of it behind the scenes is totally rotten to the core. And by that, I mean, who knows what goes on at the academy level? Who knows what goes on under 8s, under 9s, under 10s? Is the investment there when it needs to be? When are those kids classed as dispensable? Maybe if there's a tournament or an overseas tour, they could potentially go on for development. Does that run past Jeff Shee's desk and he's saying no to those types of opportunities? So I just think that it's unnerving. It's really took a shine off these recent weeks. It's really made, again, we'll cover it more, but the whole thought of looking forward to potentially a good summer and something to build on, you start to question that as well, because even if we get an influx of money from Cunha and maybe another top player going, do you even just trust Jeff Shee to be to do with that what he should? So I think it for a large part just talks to issues beyond what we see, and often the power that one man beholds.
It's disappointing with the whole one pack slogan that they've had, that one pack kind of when it's appropriate. Very clearly they didn't think this would be an issue, although I was laughing because before that Leicester City match, it was announced that, there's going to be the ticket freeze is indeed going to be the case. And he's also freezing the child tickets, which were kind of up in the air. And it's like, well, why are you doing that right now? Very clearly, they knew that, this news about the women is going to come out and shit's going to hit the fan. So let's try and get some positive press out there beforehand, which honestly, maybe even more despicable, Alex.
Yeah, it is. But I hate to say this. I think Jeff Shee is nailing his aim, which is to do the bare minimum to keep getting Premier League money on the men's side, and keep milking this thing for everything that it has. And it's, the lack of ambition is really depressing. I feel really, really bad for the women. I think it makes a statement that would permeate to the men. I feel bad for Matt Hobbs and people who have to try to recruit for a club that clearly does not care about winning. Winning just does not seem like a priority at all. And like, I just don't have a comparable for that in sports anywhere else where it's like, oh, we can just do just enough to stay in this league. Hell yeah, that's awesome. Like, let's just do that. And it's telling with how many January windows we've had to just barely rescue our season. Like, it's a pattern now. Like, Jeff Shee has shown his hand over and over again. He's not changing. So until he's gone, it is what it is. We'll keep coming back to this with some embarrassing thing that the football world laughs at all the time. And I'm tired of being a laughingstock, really. I mean, like, how many times are we talking about a women's league's like controversy to this level? And it's like, it's not just Wolverhampton Wanderers people talking about this anymore. It's like, it's despicable enough that it goes beyond just the Wolves podcasts than the ones that we like our sphere that we live in. So sad.
Yeah, I think there is a comparable, and it's Pittsburgh's own Pittsburgh Pirates, Drew.
Yeah, that might be pretty close. Like, I was going to say, Jeff Shee has just reached a level where any terrible thing that you hear associated with him has become believable. There's no story that can come out where you'll be like, and if it surprises you, you're like, well, why you like kick yourself? Like, of course he would do something like that. How many managers have we said, oh, thank God we've got this guy in, he saved us, and then gone by the beginning of the next season? Or it's just, he has reached that level where nothing you say about him can like take you by surprise.
Yeah, I guess like final thoughts on this, something I've been thinking about, because obviously I've been following it a lot closer than most people, I suppose. But, it's kind of extra depressing to me because it sort of solidified a pattern, where it just feels like there is such a reluctance to spend, such a pullback from investment on anything that doesn't get streamed across the world. And like, I know that I can find Wolves esports if I actually went looking for it. And I think that that's what keeps the investment turned on for Wolves esports. And same thing with the Premier League. You can go to almost any country and find a way to watch a Wolves game. And I think that's what keeps the money flowing there to the extent that it does. But it also means that any place where Jeff Shee or Fosun feel that they can disinvest and that it will not overly hurt them in the short term, they will do it. And that includes on the men's team, like anything cutting corners, that they can do. And the real frustrating thing about this whole women's team saga is that, like, this is one of the things, kind of like to Paul's point about the academy, this is one of the things that actually does like impact the local community in a way. I mean, like, I think at least 6 of the girls who are on that squad on their final game are Wolves season ticket holders or supporters. Obviously, the vast, vast, vast majority of the people who show up to their home games are also Wolves supporters or live locally. And it's just like, these are the things that are actually affecting people who live there. Same thing with the ticket prices. Same thing with, not refurbishing the stadium. Same thing with not, springing for paint for the exterior of the stadium. These things are the things that are all on the chopping block. And it's never, the big stuff that is on the TV screen. When it comes time to spend, we'll get into a whole transfer section, I'm sure, later in the season or at the end. But I cannot believe I'm seeing people thinking about us bringing in João Felix. But let me tell you, if that deal is there to be done, like, Jeff Shee will find the money to do that, but he will not find the money to paint the bollards until someone shames him. He will not seemingly invest in the women's team until there is a public pressure campaign to shame him. And it's not a requirement for Wolves to have a women's team. He could disinvest completely and get rid of the women's team, but he knows that would be unpopular too, and it's just like anything that he can do to remove investment from something where he thinks that the outrage will not quite be enough to change people's minds, that it seems that is the MO, that you will always end up disinvesting in those scenarios. And that doesn't feel like a solid basis on which to run a club.
But what about the birth rates, Danny? The birth rates.
We cannot do a deep dive into every argument that I had online during that week for my own mental health.
And so there were some good ones. There were some
very good ones. Yeah, you can certainly, I guess as a final word, you can, check out my social media as always. I post too much. I spend too much time online. And most importantly, check out Wolves Women Pod. They should be coming out with a podcast sometime this week, ideally when we know more.
Well, let's talk about non-dumpster fires. And that's Brighton, who, again, nice solid season again. We have Paul Dorsey from Stateside Seagulls. Nice little revenge game against Newcastle. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about how you guys are viewing the season overall. Are you there, Paul? Uh-oh. I think he may have froze. Yep. Okay. Well,
try again.
Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. There he is.
I'm back again.
All right. So, how do you feel your season is shaping up so far, Paul?
Gosh, that's a loaded question. You would look at the table and you would look at Brighton's history and be like, 10th, that sounds fantastic. I'll take it. But it's been a bit of a roller coaster. So we had 6 wins in a row between February and March, which came after a pretty bad run of form across the winter. So things were looking bad, then looking good, and now they're kind of looking a little uncertain again. And I think that's kind of the theme for Brighton this season. It's just that things are a little uncertain and the things are maybe better than we would think historically. But I think that since we made the Europa League a couple of years ago and we spent so much money in the summer, there's so much expectation now. And I think that 10th is, for me, that sounds fantastic. But I think for a lot of the fan base, it's just not where we thought we would be at this stage.
What's been the fan sentiment for Fabian Hürzeler overall, Paul?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag. I think that there's very much that hope and expectation, especially with how our recruitment has been so great over the past few years, bringing in, Chris Hughton, Graham Potter, Roberto De Zerbi, and now Fabian Hürzeler. We were thinking that, the board would get it right again, that Fabian Hürzeler, nobody's ever heard of him. He's the youngest permanent manager in Premier League history. They must know something that we don't. And I think that the jury's still out on that for Fabian Hürzeler. I think that the fan base is kind of uncertain. There have been some injury problems and some things that have kind of gone against him just in terms of the way that the team and the results have kind of worked out so far this season. But I think there's also that expectation versus reality idea where, things haven't gone exactly according to plan. Things haven't gone according to expectation. And it's kind of easy to blame the manager for that. And especially such a young manager who's kind of inexperienced. It's kind of like he's the first, kind of person that can take the blame if things aren't going how you think they're going to. And so I think that's kind of where a lot of the fan base is, where, we thought we might be higher, especially with Tottenham and Man United being so poor this season. We have an opportunity to be able to make Europe again, and we're not quite there. And I think, that kind of fan sentiment that's negative, that wanted to be in Europe, is seeing us in 10th and saying, well, it must be Fabian Hürzeler's fault.
So looking at Saturday's matchup with Brighton coming into Molineux Stadium, what are you predicting the lineup and the shape to look like?
I think it's going to look a lot like we looked against Newcastle. I think 4-2-3-1, 4-5-1, however we're going to set up the midfield. I'm not entirely sure. It kind of fluctuates, but I think with João Pedro still suspended, I think we're going to have Welbeck up top. He's going to kind of be the target with our attacking, especially we'll see if Matoma comes in as well. Hopefully he'll be back in, but if not, Minte and Adingra on the wide spaces of the pitch, I think are great attacking options as well. Defensively, we're kind of, again, with the injuries, it's kind of a mixed bag back there too. With the right back situation, it's kind of a revolving door. Mats Wiefer might be playing there. Jack Hinshelwood might be playing there. Who knows? But with Van Hecke and Dunk, they're playing center back. They should be there. And then Verbruggen is going to be the goalie, obviously. So I think that those positions are going to be at least a little bit more expected. But really everywhere else in the pitch, it's kind of, players just kind of, especially with Hertzler's kind of formation, players kind of end up wherever they end up. So, the formation may be one thing on FOTMob and it might actually be another thing on the pitch.
I would do dirty things, Paul, to get Mente in Wolves lineup.
He's been fantastic. Look, I mean, it hasn't exactly been the greatest end to the season, but he's been, and especially among all the players that we brought in the summer, he's been one of my favorites.
Easy to see. Well, thanks, Paul, for taking the time to come in. Good luck the rest of the season, but not Saturday.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. Up the alley.
All right.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, guys. Let's look at it from our point of view. Do we have any word, Danny, on if JSL's coming back?
Not that I'm aware, although the way that I can't remember the exact words they used, but it did not seem like they were expecting it to be long-term, but I guess that should still mean that he could, come back to the bench instead of straight back in. So I guess we're just going to have to wait till Friday's press conference.
Paul, if he is out, same starting 11 as Man City?
I think it's got to be, although what you kind of miss in a game like what Saturday will show, especially like Paul was just talking to down their right-hand side. I'd really love it on Saturday if Cunha was taking up those spots at home, and certainly the chance to pick up that combo without Nuri down that side as well. So I think it'd be a really big boost based off of all of that if Strand Larsen could come back in.
Otherwise, Mario Menezzi at number 9, right, Drew?
How about Mane? I mean, give the kids a chance. Why not? Like, let's throw them in, and I know that looking at it, Wolves have a real chance to finish like 13th or even maybe better, but at the same time, Vitor's done such an amazing job. We're safe. Is now maybe an opportunity to give some of these kids a chance at some Premier League minutes.
Okay.
Why not indeed?
What was that, Danny?
Why not indeed?
Why not indeed? Well, guys, let's look at the prediction standings. And Danny got another point. Congrats, you're the Liverpool. You're just not an asshole like the rest of them. But you're the Liverpool of this league. You wrapped it up weeks ago. Alex, you got 26 points. Me and Paul, I piggybacked off of him saying, "Well, Man City, we're gonna win." We're still tied, Paul. This is getting close. And the guest spot with 13 points, Drew. I'm looking here. You did get a point earlier in the season against Southampton, so maybe you can pull something out. Let's go.
What's against Southampton this season, though?
Yeah,
even a guy from Pittsburgh somehow.
So what you got this week, Drew?
Well, boy, I sure would. Being Monday night, I sure would love to know if Strand Larsen is in or not, because I do really think he just, I think Menezzi plays a lot better when Strand Larsen is in there, and I would, I think the Wolves were really doing that. That all to say, I'm gonna say 1-1. So I think I'd love to say we get back to our winning ways, but I think we get back to our non-losing ways. I'll take a 1-1 draw.
Okay. Danny?
This is one that I almost just don't know what to say, because since this whole streak started, and then, of course, the City game, feels like the first one where it's truly like kind of a mid-table team that I think they're not particularly bad, but they've also had some shaky games. They certainly have weaknesses that we can exploit, but we actually have to go and do it against a team that's like semi-competent. And so I just, it's a different kind of challenge in the last several games. But I'm just going to say we're at home. I think there's still a really good vibe on the team and amongst the fans. So I think Wolves win 2-1.
2-1. Alex?
Yeah, I also think they win at home. I think that even with the loss to Man City, that still feels like we're riding the same wave we were riding with that win streak. I kind of like us to keep a clean sheet. I can't say I expect us to score a lot if Larson doesn't play. Don't know that you force him back given the fact that there's not a whole lot at stake. So I'm going to say Larson doesn't play, but Wolves win 1-0.
1-0. Okay, Paul?
Paul Dorsey said 2 words that sent a shiver down my spine. And I kind of forgot about him. So those were Danny and Welbeck. And when he mentioned that, I'd gone from that excitement of potentially having a good end of season win against a team that hasn't been in the best of form that we traditionally struggle with. Just by him saying that has flipped that a little. So I'm going down that route that the Man City defeat kind of took the gloss off of that really strong closeout to the season. Now we may see a little, may not necessarily experimentation in the first 11, but maybe off the bench and a quicker time. So I'm going to go for Wolverhampton Wanderers 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 2.
2-2 draw. I am going for 7 of 8. Ole, ole. I like Alex. 1-0 sounds about right for this. If Strand Larson does, if Strand Larson plays, I think it could be 2-0. But yeah, I think the defense is just even that matchup. I mean, Andre just had a human moment, and Man City was able to score. I don't think he has many of those in him. So I am going to say Wolves 1, Brighton 0.
No Stupid Questions is brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. Whether you're toasting some Vino de Vitor or winding down after a day of work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of wine country with each sip. Now at esfuerzowines.com, you can use the promo code VITOR, that's VITOR, at checkout to receive a 30% discount off your order. And don't forget to try the special edition 1-pack wines to show your passion and support for Wolves with each glass. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their product responsibly and in moderation.
Time for No Stupid Questions, our favorite part of the show every week where the listeners can ask anything related to Wolverhampton Wanderers. There's a number of ways you could do so each and every show. You can get us on X at WLWpod. You can email us hello@wholelotofwolves.com. And if you are one of the folks watching live on our stream on Facebook, Whole Lot of Wolves, or on YouTube at Whole Lot of Wolves, we encourage you to send in your questions real time here in the chat. And if time permits, we will get to them. So I see some people in there. If you want to get your questions in, please fire them away. We have some lingering questions about the remaining 3 matches of the season, though, including from our own bookmaker, Joshua Buckley, who's always setting a line on something. So what do you got, Josh? Tell us your new line that we can get on, your new prop bet for the remaining 3 matches of the season, or even looking forward to next year.
Okay, we'll have a big over/under on our end of the year wrap up, of course. But here's a little taste of one: over/under 8.5 on the number of the current starting 11 that's starting next season, assuming everybody's healthy. So that includes JSL in there. So, Paul, what do you think? Over/under 8.5.
Way under.
Wow,
I
way
think
under.
if like you can look at it a few different ways. You can look at it like negatively, in that Cunha goes out. Nuri could be a big money departure if they've got Bueno to come in, and they're thinking that now's the time to profit on him. You could also have a massive. I don't know. How can you create something that's a Jeff Shee screw up, or just blame him for selling another crown jewel like Joe Gomez or Andre, because that's the type of stuff that he'd do. So there's another one. You could think that maybe Vitor wants his own guy between the sticks, so a new number one comes in instead of Sarr. Doc comes out for Mosquera or someone else. So that's another one. So I think it starts to add up that you could have a team at the start of next season that's a good chunk removed from the one that we're watching right now.
Interesting. Alex, I thought my line was pretty on spot. What do you think?
I think it's a very good line. It's either going to be 8 or 9, and I'm trying to decide what my answer would be.
Yeah.
I think I go under because I think Cunha's gone. I think there's a good chance Aït-Nouri is gone, and I think it is Semeido's gone. Yeah, so you're already looking at least 3 new starters.
Mm-hmm.
And if Aït-Nouri stays, I think you're still looking at 3 new starters, because I do think, as good as he's been, like, we should have an upgrade over Matt Doherty, like, who's still not necessarily in his most natural position. And I think that could just be if Mosquera is healthy in the preseason, he kind of has to start. If he looks anything like he did earlier in this season, which looked like the best center back we've had in a while. I'm going under. Don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I'm going to stick with my statement that, and Paul talking about the spine. I think if Larson, the Brazilian duo in the midfield, and Agbadou are there, I'll feel good about most other things that happened this summer.
Danny?
Yeah, I would go under, but barely. Although, I think part of the reason that a lot of us are tempted with the under is just, it feels like a very high variance summer. It's obviously, we say this every summer, it's so important to get it right this summer, but it feels like there's a lot of players who could go. Just thinking back to last summer and all the rumors that abounded at the time. And so I just think that, we have the ones earmarked that we think are kind of like dead certain to be going out, or at least like that's what the club is looking at, is them moving out. But then, like, even though I don't personally think that it should be a priority to get a new goalkeeper, would I be shocked if both Jose Sa and Sam Johnstone left in the summer and we have a new goalkeeper? Like, not terribly. Like, again, I don't think it's like what they should do, but I wouldn't be surprised. And like, Alex said, Matt Doherty being replaced in the starting 11 certainly wouldn't be surprising. So I go under, but maybe not by a ton. Like, I'd go maybe 8.
Yeah, so I probably should have set it at 7.5 because I wasn't anticipating Doc in there. I guess because I figure Mosquera may not be ready at the start of the year, so I could still see Doc starting in there. Drew?
Yeah, I had the under as well. Again, as everyone was saying, I was trying to think over under like 7.5 departures from the current squad. Looking at
squad, yes,
yeah, maybe even. Yeah, I guess maybe even like 10.5 for a squad. I was trying to count them on I should have written them down. I was trying to count them on my fingers here.
You count the half player as Sam Johnson because he's that bad.
Or Fabio.
But yeah, I mean, I honestly, Doc, I tell you what, man, he was like making some incredible like headed clearances, and like, he does play such a great role in this team. But if Mosquera is ready, if Giga, they invested in him, they might look to Doc as kind of somebody who can come in and maybe affect the game in a different way next year. Maybe he like goes back and plays a little bit more of an offensive role. Who knows, coming off the bench next year, or maybe his legs just aren't there for him. But yeah, I would think it does seem as though, even though with some positive news on the Semedo front, I really think it seems as though Cunha, Nori are guarantees to be gone. It does seem that real chance that Doc gets replaced, and real chance Semedo as well. And but I'd just be so sad if it was, as Paul said, and if it was one of Zhao or Andre. That would just that would really make me.
We'll talk about it more, I'm sure, at the end of the season as we're leading in. But I will say, spoiler alert, I'm going to say that Wolves will be replacing maybe 2, that's it, of their starting 11 that isn't already on the squad or out on loan, like Hugo Bueno. So we will discuss that. That's what we call a teaser in the business, folks.
Well, one of those players in the squad, at least, who seems likely to depart, whether on a loan or a permanent deal, is Tommy fucking Doyle. So we could wrap No Stupid Questions with a simple one for Paul. And who would be the favorite to be his new crush if, in fact, TFD is no longer with us next season?
You got to realize, both with his profile and Trincao, there's a distinctive element in both of them. It's kind of like the flawed genius, or just that flattered to deceive, that they're just showing off to get you all in, but then it's just not quite enough. And based on that, I'm going to answer this by saying that my the next one is not yet on the team. I don't think it's not going to be Harvey Elliott like Danny talks to in the chat, but I'll go out on a very big limb and say it could be a James McAtee in one of those number 10 roles.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good shout. I like that.
I was going to say, like, there have to be some English incomings.
Yeah,
like, there just have to be, like we have to balance out the squad with, homegrown player rules as well. And
Paul, can I interest you in a Connor fucking Cody?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
He's coming back, baby. He's coming back.
I heard your discussion on that last week, and as great as it would be to have him, I don't think it rings quite the same. There's something about that fucking in the middle that has to have some promise. Like, his best days can't be behind.
What about? Well, this dude's this suggestion. What about Jamie fucking Vardy?
Yeah, jeez.
The fucking would stand for something completely different in that.
Yeah,
that would not be a term of endearment. Fucking.
This is a huge stretch, huge reach, and I don't think he even fits the way that we're going to set up. But you could have had a chick fucking Chiquinho, if you could say it. I can't even get the words to work, so that doesn't count.
Chick fuckinho, maybe the only way to.
That sounds like that definitely sounds like a porno.
I saw a clickbait video recently about this person coming back to England. What about Harry fucking Kane?
Oh my God! Wolves?
The day Harry Kane is staying at the Novotel the night before a game.
Well, he's already won. He's finally won something, so now he doesn't have to worry about winning. And he can go somewhere like Wolves, where winning is not a problem.
There's no pressure to win trophies here, baby.
Yeah, absolutely none. Oh man! All right, that'll do it for our No Stupid Question. Thanks to our friends at Esfuerzo Wines. 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. Delicious wines to be had at esfuerzowines.com. When you go there, use the promo code Vitor at checkout to get a 30% discount on your order. That's Vitor, like our beloved manager, the true pintsman that he is, Vitor.
Drew, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on X at Drew Freakin, and also if you are in the Pittsburgh area, check out Steel City Wolves. We watch games at the Pitch on Butler Street. So um, I have a son who plays on two different teams, so I have a real hard time getting down there. But I do know there's a great group there. The owner is a Wolves supporter, so it's a very, very wonderful time. But yeah, check me out on X as well if you ever want to. I basically only use it to talk Wolves. So
That brings this week's show to an end. Thanks to Alex producing, Danny on the socials, you, the wonderful listener or streamer, as this show is for you. If you've yet to do so, please head over to that podcast platform that you listen to. Give us a review, star rate, high 5-star rating, whatever you can to propel us up the table, and that helps with our exposure and growing the pack. Same goes on YouTube as well. If you are new to that channel, we go live with this episode every week, and then you can both stream the video and listen to the podcast recording as well. We have just hit 150 subscribers. 150 of you beautiful people have taken the time to subscribe, so thank you, and please do so if you haven't yet. We will be back this time next week to review everything that goes on against Brighton on Saturday. And as a reminder, everyone, it is Mother's Day stateside on Sunday, so please get that bouquet of flowers for your mom, for your wife, for that special woman in your life. And on the card, you can write up the Mighty Wolves.
Me, 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 me.